sixth grade. I know last week you guys had a pretty lengthy video tutorial on how to write music. So this week we are going to take those thoughts and those skills that you started last week, and we're going to have a conversation with a real composer, someone who actually puts together stuff for orchestra and choir and all these instruments and publishes his music for purchase for the public, for the public to purchase. So we're going to be looking at this, and then next week we're going to dabble back in with composing, but we're going to be adding 2 more notes. So for this week, let's just take a break from that and learn a little bit about what composers actually do and what is the point of music in the first place. All right, so here we go. Now, my apologies if the video kind of moves a little weird through the recording. Sometimes the video that I'm trying to show you doesn't move the way it should move, but you can hear it very, very well. So let's just hope this works, and here we go.
Have you ever wondered how music really works? When we listen to music, it sounds so pure and simple, and we get it right away. But when we ask the innocent question of how this all works and how these songs are made in the first place, things get complicated very quickly. Key signatures, scales, sharps, flats, double sharps, chord symbols. But let's put all of these names and labels aside for one moment, and let's explore what's really going on in music in a much simpler way. Musical sounds can have any pitch on an infinite continuum. But we don't use all of these infinite sounds. We use just 12 sounds. What many people never fully appreciate is that these are all the notes that exist. All those music theory books, all your music teachers in school, the centuries of classical composers, all the way up to modern music like pop, rock, funk, blues, and jazz. It's all made from just 12 notes. And these 12 sounds are repeated across the musical continuum. All of these notes are equally separated, and they're all exactly equal in value and importance. And actually it gets even simpler, because most of the time our music is really only using 7 of these notes. And that note at the top that your ear is expecting to hear is not actually a new note at all, but it's just note 1 again, just 1 octave higher than the original. This is the major scale, and these are the sounds that make up all of that music that surrounds you in your daily life. Now, hearing the major scale in this way might make you think about children's songs like this one. But look at what else you find here. Melodies from pop music like the Beatles. Movie themes. Jazz standards like the classic Summertime. And even the most dark and melancholy ballads like My Funny Valentine. Melodies you know from classical music. And even melodies from rock music that don't sound anything like the major scale, like this classic from Nirvana. The first step to understanding these songs is to realize that the names of the notes don't even really matter, because music is relative. Every one of these melodies is just a sequence of notes from the major scale, and we can build a major scale anywhere we want. We could build it here, or we could build it here, and that means that we can also play any song we know anywhere we want. For example, we could play this melody here.
You know that one.
Or we could move the entire system to a new place and play the melody here. So when you're connected with the origin of these sounds, which is always just the major scale, it's very easy to play any song in any key because you're not hampered by all that language about sharps and flats and key signatures and everything else. And this is the answer to our riddle about why music looks so complicated on paper, but it sounds so simple and so beautiful to our ears. The reason music feels so intuitive and enjoyable is because it all comes from a single musical structure called the major scale. And so the first step to understanding music is to look past the names of the notes and learn to hear the major scale in the music all around you. Now, after hearing all of this and seeing how simple our musical system really is, you're probably wondering why more people don't know this. And you're probably also wondering how you can actually use this knowledge to create your own music. To answer these questions, you need to come learn the full story at improviseforreal.com.
Now, if you want to go visit that website, you totally can. It's a great website. But that just gives you a little bit of understanding of what we're trying to do with the music notes that you're putting on your paper, okay? And like I said, we're going to be expanding and letting you use some more music notes next week. But now let's hear from an actual composer on how he takes all that information and creates music out of it. Now, every now and then during the video, it is going to stop and either give us more information or ask us a couple of questions, okay? Here we go.
Have you ever wondered how composers actually compose music? Well, history is full of composers, and there's still a lot of them around today. Each one of them has a unique way of composing, a reflection of his or her own background, inspirations, and techniques. But they all share a love for music and have the skills to write new music using a common language that performers and listeners will understand. So today, we're going to talk to one composer to get a better understanding of how composing music works for him. That composer is Jake Runestad, one of the youngest full-time composers in the United States.
Hi.
And we have a whole bunch of excellent questions for him. So take it away, Jake.
Okay. First question. What do composers do? Well, that's a really good question. Let's put it this way. Let's say you want to build something, like a birdhouse. What do you need? An instruction manual. It's the same for music. A composer creates an instruction manual to tell the musicians how to play a piece of music. Composers create scores, sheets of paper or an electronic screen that includes everything the performers need to know.
Okay, so it stopped here because it wants us to tell us that, like he said, directors use scores such as band directors, orchestra directors, choir directors like me. A score lists all the instruments and the vocal parts together.
What instruments to play when, the rhythms, notes, tempo, meter, dynamics, and much more. Once the performers follow all of these instructions, voila! The composer's music comes alive. Next.
Okay, so as he has said, the composition you will write. Now, the compositions that we are writing is so much more than a simple composition. We're just going to be very simple, and we're not going to use all those major elements, okay? We are just keeping our stuff very, very simple. We're limiting it to what your recorders would play, okay? That's what we're doing. Here we go.
Next question. What do you have to learn and know about music to be a composer? Well, as a composer, you have to know a lot of different things. We must know how to read music, how to notate music, how each voice type and instrument works, how certain instruments sound together. We need to study the music of other composers to see how they put their instruments together to create powerful music. And we need to learn how vocal and instrumental lines interact using a technique called counterpoint. There's a lot more we need to know, but that's a good list so far.
Okay, so here's our first question. What do you have to learn and know about music to be a composer? A, how to read and write notate music. B, the voices of instruments and how they sound together. C, study of other composers and how counterpoint works, which you don't need to know all that stuff for our simple things we're going to do, but this is what he's saying. Or D, all of the above. Yeah, it's D, all of the above. Here we go. Good job. Oh, again, your composition is going to be a lot more simple, okay? We are choosing one instrument, that's the recorder. We're picking one time signature, that is our 4/4. We're creating rhythms and we're adding pitches to it. That is all we're doing with our stuff. It's what we did last week, it's what we'll do next week, okay? Here we go.
How long does it take you to write a piece of music? Well, it really depends. Sometimes with shorter pieces, it can take up to a week, and other longer pieces can take over a year. Can you hear the music in your head as you write it down before it's even sung or played? Actually, yes, I do. I hear the music in my head through a process called audiation. Have you ever been doing something like eating a bowl of cereal and then you have a song pop into your head and you can hear it as if it were playing on the radio? That's audiation. In my case, that music is original music that's never been heard. Next question.
Okay, what process lets you hear music in your head when no music is being played? Imagination, audiation, or programmation? Yep, it's audiation. He just told us. Here we go.
What do you use to compose? I compose everything on paper using pencil. Then I can fine-tune harmony at the piano. Sometimes I will record an idea into my phone to save it for later so I don't forget it. Where do you like to compose music? Well, that can vary, really. I like to compose outside, like at Minnehaha Falls, or indoors, like at my friend's condo. In other words, in places where I feel comfortable and inspired. Next question.
Okay, where do you picture yourself being inspired, and where is a good place for you to hear new music? Well, you can answer this on your own. You can write this down on a piece of paper and then maybe send it to me later on. But well, actually, it might be a question in your quiz. You don't know, okay? But for me personally, where I find a good place to compose music is in my music studio at my house, where my piano and my computer is, that allows me to hear some, think of some great tunes and get it to the piano where I can play it and then put it on paper or notate it in a music program. Sometimes I can come up with little quick melodies at school that I can then jot down. So it really depends for me, okay? But that might not be the same thing for you. So you can answer that in your quiz later. Here we go.
Where do you find your inspiration? find my inspiration in a number of things. In literature, visual art, and nature. And those are just a few. Next question.
Okay, what kind of sources can you use for your inspiration? Perhaps you have a favorite book that you can write a song to go along with. Some composers will even take poems that have been around for a long time, or new poems that are being freshly written by current poets, and put that to music. So it just really depends on where you find your inspiration, okay?
Next question. How do you come up with musical ideas? Well, improvisation is an important part of my process. First, I'll think about the mood or feeling of the music I want to create. Then I'll sing or play some ideas of what that might sound like. Or I'll just close my eyes and imagine a scene and what sounds might accompany that scene. Well, that's it for questions. Now, remember that I'm just one composer out of many. So how I write music is going to be a little different than how other composers work. So I hope that was helpful in you learning a little bit more about composers and how to compose.
Now, I know it ended the video there, and you're putting an awful lot of sugar in that tea. I'm sorry, I found that very funny. So now, like I said, last week you had a little bit of experience writing some very simple melodies, and then the next weeks we're going to expand, but I thought it would be a great time to take a break from that and look at how a professional composer does his stuff and what we're going to do. So that's all we have for today, just kind of a quick simple one. Next week you might want to print off a little bit more manuscript paper, because we are going to, or create your own. Go ahead and start creating it, because we are going to be composing again with some more notes. We're going to use B, A, and G, but we're also going to add E and D, stuff that you learned when you were working on your green and your purple belt and your recorders. If you had me back in 4th grade, I know some of you didn't, and that's totally okay. But until then, what I need you to do is do your quiz. I'm so excited that you guys have been doing real good about keeping up with your videos and your quizzes, and I am giving those names to those teachers so that you guys can get credit for completing your stuff, okay? And don't forget to put your name on your quiz. And until next week, bye, you guys.